These Republicans revered the founders, Jefferson included, but they scarcely resembled them. They owned no plantations nor slaves, had not been born to wealth, generally had not traveled to England or France. For the most part, the Republican leaders were self-made men, many forged in a crucible of hard experience. John Sherman, a leading congressman, was the son of a lawyer who had died when John was 6, leaving his mother to raise 11 children in poverty. Salmon Chase, the Treasury Secretary, on whom fell the Bunyan-esque burden of raising more money than had been expended in total since the beginning of the Republic, had been plagued by hardship and personal losses. Horace Greeley was born to poor farmers in New Hampshire. Prototypical was Thaddeus Stevens, born with a clubfoot in a remote hamlet in Vermont to a cobbler father who abandoned him. Confronted with prejudice as well as poverty, Thaddeus developed a protective shield of sarcasm, enrolled in Dartmouth, and established himself in Pennsylvania, where he practiced law and operated an iron foundry. Stevens typified both sides of the Republican rags-to-riches ethos, support for the common classes combined with mercantile ambition. Early in his career, he distinguished himself by fighting for free public schools, which Pennsylvania established before any other state. During the legislative fracas, Stevens mocked opponents of public education with the derisive barb that it was easier to pass a bill to improve the breed of hogs than that of men. In Congress, he became the scourge of the South, the bitter enemy of the slave masters. Lincoln, Stevens, and most of the Republicans were former Whigs, disciples of Henry Clay, Lincoln's hero, and Daniel Webster. The basic thesis that a robust federal state could promote prosperity was a Whig idea. However, by tiptoeing around the slavery issue, the Whigs made themselves irrelevant. The Republicans were born in 1854 out of the ashes of the Whigs. The issue that brought the Republicans to power was slavery. Slavery, or the election of a party hostile to slavery, was the main reason the Cotton States seceded. That is not quite to say that slavery caused the Civil War. Southern secessionists did not anticipate, certainly did not desire, a war. Quite the contrary. They believed their cotton was so essential to Northern industry and to its counterpart in Europe that not a finger would be lifted against them. Southern plantations produced 3/4 of the world's cotton, and this cotton accounted for 60% of American exports. Confidence in its cartel led South Carolina's James Hammond to boast in the U.S. Senate, "No power on earth dares to make war upon it. Cotton is king." The comment came to stand for a kind of magical triumphalism, a belief that the South could afford to never compromise. And indeed, both before and after secession, Northerners abjectly tried to placate the South, that is, to assure it that if only the Union were preserved, Washington would not ever interfere with slavery in the states where it existed. A frequently voiced corollary was that since Britain and France could not afford disruption to their textile industries, the crowned heads of Europe would not permit a war. Once it became clear that disunion could lead to bloodshed, Southerners reacted with shock. Caroline Gilman, a writer living in Charleston, wrote after secession that the local women were sad and frightened, some in tears, at the prospect of cannon fire from Fort Sumter. Gilman herself sounded stunned, for, as she put it, Civil War was foreign to the original plan. Secession was a Southern project. The war came mostly from the North. Even in the Union, the people, while appalled by secession, showed no interest in a war. Lincoln's cabinet, polled on whether to resupply the federal garrison at Fort Sumter, voted 5-2 against. Yet just a month later, when Lincoln sent a fleet to reprovision the fort, prompting the South to fire the first shot, the Northern public overwhelmingly supported war. The overnight change in Northern sentiment dovetailed with the only justification that Lincoln gave for fighting: to preserve the Union. To modern readers, that may seem a great hurrah at tragic cost.